Going live. All right, I think we're good. Hello, YouTube.
Hey, YouTube.
Welcome to the Fifth and Goal podcast. My name is Aaron. I am joined once again by my good friends Josh and Johnny. Today we have a very special guest. We are joined by none other than Ben Chase. If you have been living under a rock the last few weeks, Ben Chase is a college football legend who is currently on a huge road trip. He's trying to go to 60 plus college football games in one year to break the world record. Ben, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Like I said, I apologize that I'm walking around right now. I'm actually on my home campus here at University of Florida, going to a basketball game tonight.
Wow.
Florida. So basketball is my favorite sport, but college football is my favorite tradition. So that's about that. Yeah, I didn't know there was a game tonight, and someone wanted to meet me in Gainesville, so I said, let me find an actual excuse to go to Gainesville. Besides being home, but yeah, I'm actually trying to shoot for 70 games now, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
I've gotten to 47 so far, and this week we have 6 on deck in 5 days.
Amazing. Ben, will that include bowl games? That's 70 then?
Yeah. So it'll include, because this is the second to last. So next week's the last week of the regular season.
Right.
Besides like Army, Navy, which is like another extra week.
Right.
So with bowl games, I think right now I'm at like 71 or 2 on my outline. But my band, Betty White, is acting up right now, so I'm kind of nervous about this overnight trek. But luckily, I've gotten these extra games baked in, where if I need to like take a day to, get her fixed or serviced, that's okay. I may be the serpentine belt, so that's not terrible.
Yeah. So, man, on that note, what has been the process and maybe even the planning of how did you logistically get 60 to work and now 70?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I started the season with an outline of 62 games. And basically it was just, I went to ESPN.com and pulled up FBS, FCS, D2, D3, HBCU, every schedule. And I just said, what's the first game of each week? Is it a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever game? Can I get to that game from the last game of the next week? So I started in week 0 and I live in Tucson. So week 0, there was a game in New Mexico State. I was like, oh, that's only 4 hours away. We're off to a good start. And then, week 1, they started games on, was it Wednesday? Thursday. So it was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It was Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
No, Wednesday, probably. Wednesday, Thursday, because I did 6 games in 6 days in six different states. Or 6 different cities. I don't know if there's different states. I don't even remember. But yeah, so basically that's the plan. And the only other staples of the trip are I have 3 weddings on the trip, but they're all on Sundays. So I want my Saturdays to be close to where those are. So I had a wedding in Atlanta, so I went to Auburn. I went to a wedding in DC, so I went to Penn State. I had a wedding last night, Sunday night in Sarasota, so I went to Tampa. So those are good. This is Florida's new football facility.
That looks amazing.
Oh, whoa! Look at that.
Yeah, brand new. So maybe we'll get a tour. So that's basically the logistics of the trip in a nutshell.
That's incredible. I do want to ask you about Florida because you are a huge Florida fan. Have you even had a chance to? I know you've been to one of their games, but have you had a chance to follow along with them this season? What are your thoughts about Billy Napier in his first year as a Gators fan?
So I listened to probably 5 or 6 Gator podcasts, and then I watch the games on the next day on Sundays on YouTube. So that's how I stay involved and kind of get the breakdown. And the podcasts are a mixture of barbershop type style and probably the most analytical college football podcast I've ever listened to. So I have a pretty good, and that's I listen to National Football Holidays too. So that's not me just lying. It's a really good podcast. So that's kind of way I keep up with it. Florida football is my life. Florida basketball is too. Like I said, basketball is my favorite sport. So when I graduated, I picked Florida for basketball more than football at first, actually.
Interesting. Well, we're all collectively Ohio State fans, so we're still, licking our wounds from 15 years ago or however long ago that was at this point. But I love it. That's
dark year. Dark year.
I have a fun. I was on campus at Columbus last summer, and I jokingly made a video I was like, should I go walk around and ask people about that year? I was like,
Oh,
no, I'm just kidding. You guys have done well since then. Actually, I went to I don't know if it's how soft the subject is for you guys. I went to Urban Meyer's restaurant when I was in Columbus this season.
Oh,
I've been there twice now. So
Yep.
some would say I'm a regular.
Yep.
Yep.
Not far from us. Yep.
That's the hometown. So I also wanted to ask you, Ben. I mean, Richardson's on a lot of big boards for mock drafts. Like 5 quarterback. He's clearly exceptionally gifted.
mhm.
Personally, I really think you should stay another year in school, refine that
Selfishly.
throwing motion a little bit. I'm sure you
Yeah.
selfishly would love that too. I mean, what are your thoughts on the hype with him? Should he stay? Should he go? Maybe make a pitch for him to stay.
Yeah. So funny thing about Anthony Richardson, AR, like, I've actually bought probably $400 worth of his merchandise. So because last year I did this giveaway, I said if Anthony Richardson starts by Thanksgiving and supported Georgia, I would buy anyone who retweets this. Not like buy one person that retweets this a jersey, and I end up saying like 3 people in it. But yeah, so my thoughts on Anthony Richardson: as long as he doesn't have to turn his back, like he could, like he's like a first-round pick. Like when he does like a lot of like play action stuff right now, like it's just when his eyes aren't downfield, it's just harder for him, right? So like that's,
Mhm.
but like if you just pull up the 4th quarter against LSU from last year, like that highlight reel shows everything you need to see from like a potential standpoint. Like he threw a dart to Copeland in the corner, like short, like it shows you everything from like a tool standpoint, and like his accuracy in that game was unreal. But like this year, a new system, like a lot of the times he's Billy runs the Niners offense, so like it's a lot of like play action, and like just when his back is behind, like that he's playing catch up. Right now, I mean, I think it's like 3 or 4 straight games of no turnovers right now. So like we're turning up, and then like that was after like 4 games of like Kentucky was like I almost threw up after that game. So so like for me, it's like I would be this year, like if he came back next year, I wouldn't be shocked if we were like a 10-win regular season team like that.
Yeah.
Like that's like legit. Like I would be shocked if we didn't win 10 games, including the bowl game. So I don't know whatever he wants. Apparently he made $1 million in NIL so far. Maybe I'll talk to Darren Heitner, who's his NIL representation guy.
It's easier to stay than ever now, for sure. I hope he stays for his own good. You see guys who leave early with all those natural gifts and abilities, and if they get thrown in too quickly, they might struggle. I think he has all the ability in the world. He showed it against Utah. He shows it in flashes all the time. I'm just hoping that for his own sake, maybe he holds up, but I don't know. Maybe he drops in the first round and goes to a good team too. That's always a benefit.
I'm not going to like say he's Pat Mahomes, but I mean, Pat Mahomes was a specimen, right? That fell in the draft. And like, when he was behind Alex Smith, he was oohing and awing, in practice for a whole year. And they're like chomping at their bit, pun intended, to like get that guy on the field. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I've seen Kyle Trask, I've seen Tim Tebow, I've seen, Chef Driscoll, I've seen Jacoby Brissett. Like Anthony Richardson, compared to those guys, like physically, obviously, he's a specimen. I don't know if you've seen his like pregame backflips that he does. Like this dude is
crazy,
like 1% of 1%, and if he can just put it together, and I don't want him to be an Ohio State quarterback that turns receiver. But
that's right.
If he has to, I mean, I just want him to do well. He's a good guy. Like he's in the community a lot. Like he's a Gainesville, like he's from Gainesville, so like his handle is GVO, Gainesville's very own. So like I don't know. I hope he stays.
Love it.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I want to ask, because you said you've got 40 plus games under your belt. Has there been any game, because again, you're a Florida fan, so that's a great environment, but have there been any environments that you've been in that have just kind of blown you away? Like, wow, this is something special, or maybe even a kind of a second team that you kind of adopted through this process of going to all of these games?
Oh, for sure. Sorry, give me 1 second. I was just sorry. All right. Yeah. I would say that from like an adoption standpoint, like just teams that I've like legitimately pulled for since being like on their campus. I really had an incredible experience at Washington State, like Pullman. Pullman's the smallest city in the Power 5. So they only have about 35,000 residents in their city, which is kind of crazy to think about. Like University of Florida has like 45,000 students. There's other schools. Like I'm a big Auburn fan. The atmosphere of Auburn is like, I've been there 3 times. Iron Bowl. I've been there for the Iron Bowl. I've been there for Auburn, Georgia. This year, the game I went to was LSU. Like a night game in Auburn is like special. The whiteout was incredible. The blackout at Ohio State. I can say this. I was impressed that no one left. Like you guys were blowing out Wisconsin, and just everyone's like, I'm gonna stay till the end of this game. So like from like an atmosphere standpoint, like I can't compare because it was 21-0 after like 8 minutes.
Sure.
So like so it's like, all right, well, I can't really get the juice, right?
Sure.
I would say that like from like just pure like when I get chills, I think the first 5 minutes of Virginia Tech, like Enter Sandman, and the first like drive for West Virginia, that was like as electric as any place I've been in the country. And I would say like LSU, the rumors are true. LSU is like shit. I don't know if I'm on the coast. I'm sorry. So I would say like LSU, Auburn, Lane Stadium. That's where Virginia Tech plays. I went to Michigan. Michigan, I mean, it's like the biggest stadium, but it's kind of like the volume. It's like empty calories. Like everyone's trying to yell, but like it's so flat that like all the sound goes up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys love to hear that. Like and then from like on a lower level, like not lower level, but like Texas State, to me, if I was to bring a family from 4 to 84, like I would take them to Texas State. It's $25 a game. They have bounce house, petting zoo, photo booth, beer garden. Yeah, like all inside the stadium. It was like unreal. It was like you're going to a wedding and there's also a football game. So I would say that's a pretty impressive one.
Nice.
We love that.
So that's a long answer to your question.
No, that's great.
It's amazing. That's amazing. I also want, I'm sure you've gotten to meet a bunch of incredible people along the way. I mean, maybe you got buddies in a lot of these different places that you get to meet up with too. What are some like, what's a story? What's a person that you've what's the most interesting person you met? Yeah. I'm sure you got a million stories, man. So
I'll tell you what, like the most recent like crazy thing that happened. So I don't know how much you know about Florida football, but we had a coach named Jim McElwain. Yeah, I was the coach of Central Michigan. I stayed over at Jim McElwain's house last week. I've never met him in my life. Someone connected me. Wife of an OC App State, used to be Central Michigan. It's like, hey, do you need a connection at Central Michigan? I see you're going. I was like, sure. Next thing you know, Karen McElwain is texting me. And and they were down 24-7.
Yeah.
Halftime, came back, won the game. Burt Manuel Jr. had 293 yards. Easily the most single game impressive thing I've seen. It was the 4th most rushing yards for their school in history. They came back, won the game. And McElwain has a tradition, if they win, his house, I got really good lighting now, you're welcome. He has a barn attached to it. So if they win, the barn is open and you just go hang out with coach and the staff and like have adult beverages. And at one point I had a few Crown Royals, Cokes, and Karen comes up and says, you don't have to leave like tonight, you can stay the night. So yeah, stayed the night, Coach Max.
Wow.
This is the O-Dome and here's the swamp.
Amazing.
Wow.
Love it.
Our Heisman trophies over there.
That's amazing.
Insane.
That's awesome. We were covering Maction that night too, just at the wrong game, but we were tracking that. We were tracking that game. It was a blast.
Crazy is that, man? 293 yards. He had 2 rushes for over like 85 yards. I was like 80 yards each touchdown.
Central just churns out guys like that. I mean, they had Lou Nichols, who led the entire country in rush yards last year. They just find a way. I know your game is about to tip in 10 minutes, so we need to let you go real quick though. I wanted to ask you about something you got to do at South Florida. Yes, you've been to so many games, and that's awesome, but you did something that was a little bit even more important than football. Can you share a little bit about your experience at South Florida?
Yeah, and thank you for asking about that. Yeah, so it all kind of started, I was driving to Boone, North Carolina, App State, and I did an interview about 4 hours outside of Boone with this company. And I read the YouTube comments of the interview, and one of them said, imagine being known as the guy who just goes to college programs. And it was said like something like, bread and circuses. That's what they call these news stories about people that are like distracting us from what's really going on in the world. And I kind of like didn't take it personally, but I was like, all right, cool, And at that point, I felt that I had enough traction to do something bigger, and I reached out to one person. I made one phone call to my friend Silk. He has a podcast network that's Florida, Florida State, Miami, and so he has a pretty good connection in Florida, but not USF. And I just called him literally with no reception. I lost reception in the mountains of Boone, North Carolina. I said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this game. I want to get 70 kids. Are you in? I'm going to need your help. And he goes, let's do it. So the next place I stopped, I parked, I made a video in the gas station, and I said, this is what we're doing. Let's go. And then within 2 hours, the AD messaged me. I replied to my tweet and said, email me. Emailed him. Him and his team gave us 250 tickets to the game, and we were able to give out. I think I had 90 left when because I had them all and I had to distribute them all. And I know that we had at least 70 kids that were there. Like, I don't know, like not everyone like came to our tailgate to like check in and say hi and thank you, which is fine. Like I got text messages and stuff, but like I don't know how many people actually showed up. I gave out 106 tickets, and we had free food sponsored by Guthrie's, a local chain. We had 100 shirts donated by alumni who has licensing with the school, and we had a bus that like we bussed these kids in, and a lot of them, it was their first game. We have a really cool video that is going to be dropping here, I think tonight or tomorrow. That's just like a small little recap video. But yeah, it was like, I don't think there's anything that's going to top that, but we're going to try actually for the Cure Bowl. So yeah, our goal is probably going to be 100 kids like at that game. So that's the new goal.
Oh, that's awesome. That's such a cool
story.
And
then at the end of the game, we were able to get all the kids on the field, and they got to meet BJ Daniels, who was just inducted into the USF Hall of Fame the night before, and he spoke with them. So that was really cool. Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, we'll be keeping up with you, Ben, and we'll definitely make sure that we're retweeting all your stuff and sending that out there
thanks,
too.
Guys.
Yeah, speaking of, real quick, where can people find you on social media and all those places? Yeah,
it's Ben G Chase. You can say Ben G Gator, but it's just Ben G Chase on all socials. And mostly Twitter and Instagram. I try to throw too many things at the wall at the beginning of this trip, and but those two kind of stuck. So, and if you're ever in any of the cities I'm at, or like whatever, like message me, because I have no idea the cities I drive through. People are like, oh, you're gonna drive through like this, you're gonna drive through Georgetown. I was like, not what, Washington D.C. I'm not near Georgetown, Washington D.C. Like, no, somewhere else. I was like, oh, okay, well, like, yeah, maybe I will. You're right. So if you're in a city and you see every week I post a picture of the map on where I'm going, like, I don't look at the map and where I'm going in between. I just look at that destination. So on that journey, if you see me, like, feel free to reach out. It'd be awesome to catch up with people and tell stories and hang out.
Love it, man.
Yeah, awesome. That sounds great. Well, hey, Ben, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck the rest of your trip. Hope Betty White holds up for you. You can close this road trip out, get that world record, well earned. Thanks again for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I'm sure I'll see Ohio State here soon in the college football playoffs. Until then, go Gators, and you guys have a great night.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Ben.
Thanks, Ben.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll be right back.
Aaron, do you want us to pause audio and then start it again?
You can just let it run. That's all right.
Let it run the whole time?
Let it roll.
Yeah. I'm just going
to leave.
Yeah, we'll switch over to Discord.
Okay. So go ahead and do that.
Yep. See you guys over there.
Perfect.
Cool.
See ya.
Bye.
All right. Oh, my camera's not up. That's odd. What's up, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing well. That's interesting. I hope I had my camera up. If not, then I'm going to have to go back.
I could see you.
Yeah, the iPad one was working. For some reason, my phone camera is not working, the one that goes to YouTube. But I thought it was working for the interview. Let's see.
I don't know. All I know is we could see you.
Yeah,
you could see him, right, Josh?
Yes. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
There it is. I hope it was all right. Let me see if I can go back and see if it was on. Because if it froze, this could be a little awkward for the YouTube video. But that's all right.
I love those quick hitting I mean, Ben gave us a ton.
Yeah.
So fast,
Oh, yeah.
too. That
Short
was
and sweet. We
awesome.
love
Can I
that.
go back
That
and
was
see?
amazing. He was giving us some good
Like,
stuff there. I love that.
I've never met
I
him.
hope
Oh
he
my
goes through
goodness.
Columbus again. I'd love to
Yeah.
talk
Oh, yeah.
football with
I
him.
read the YouTube comments of the interview.
All right.
One of them-
My Zoom camera is working, but I'll have to play around with it.
Okay. Clerical.
Yes.
Everything is updated right now. College basketball is updated.
Sweet.
Football is updated, other than the rankings,
beautiful.
because they come out tomorrow, obviously. NFL will be updated after the show. World Cup is full go. Josh, you should have access to every single one of them. So
Beautiful. Thank you.
if you don't, tell me. But
Got
even
you.
the NBA,
I think I
NBA
do.
should be completely updated. College basketball is even updated. So Tennessee going down to Colorado after Colorado lost to Grambling State. You'll love it.
Mhm.
You'll love to see it. So yeah, sweet. So obviously show notes. We'll just talk NFL, college football for the rest of the time. Aaron? Or World Cup.
Yeah, we do have some extra time. We could throw some college football might be easier because then we're doing our whole World Cup show after this. And I figure we can we're doing picks of the week, World Cup, so I figure we can sprinkle it in there if that works.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. College football. All right. We can just kind of roll into it and then
yeah, I know what to talk about. Club this week or not?
We do, yes. I was coming from. I technically am off this week. Oh, sorry, chess heads. Well, chess heads is always. I found a new sport for us, but
excellent.
yes. I realized I didn't update. Actually, I always just do a quick chess heads, like just to see if news has changed. And usually, right now they're in the deliberations. They're actually in like the arguing process for like lawsuits and like any sort of, even if like criminal charges are going to be filed. I can't imagine it's. I don't think it's illegal to cheat in chess, but you never know. So I usually just check in and see. The phishing scandal's pretty much like not wrapped up, but yeah, that'll take a while. Oh shoot, 20 seconds. Nah, this is the same time.
Cool, very good.
Oh, a chess detective. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to do a chess heads updates.
A chess detective.
There's a chess detective. Okay, goodness, guys. Why does this matter? Why does I love that this is fun content. I cannot imagine in my normal life caring this much about.
Most people know about this stuff for some reason though. So
yeah. This thing in
people.
particular really kind of took off.
Yeah.
What I'm following, did you guys see Arkansas and LSU struggle knowing what to do with ice and snow?
Yes, that was hilarious.
Yes, that was so good.
That actually might be my honorary what I'm following as well.
That has to be, because I'm like, even with the Arkansas one, I'm like, you could just wait 2 hours and it'll melt. Like, unless you needed the thing sooner, I'm like, you can just. That's a time game. That's just waiting.
There was just like cold weather and they freaked out and didn't know what to do.
I mean, it's chilly everywhere. I mean, it's 40 right now, 40 and raining, which is, I would say, probably the worst weather.
Yes, the worst.
In my humble opinion. But like, you deal with it. And well, to be fair, it's not like I have anything to do this week, so it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go to the beach and it's 40. So,
Aaron, you good or?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good over here.
Still?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. Well, whenever you're ready, then.
Okay, sounds good. Also, while I'm thinking of it, when the time comes, Johnny, do you want to lead picks of the week?
Sure.
And then Josh,
let me update that.
Do you want to? When the time comes, do you want to intro what we're following? Unless yours needs to go at the end, if that's the case.
No, mine does not need to go at the end. I just have a new sport to introduce and a quick chess heads update. So
beautiful.
Will be fun.
Sounds good. I am a little under the weather the last couple of days, so I'm trying to save my voice a little bit. So.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Hi. Say hello to YouTube. And
hi. I'm on the wrong side.
yeah, you're over here.
Hello. Are you a little cold there, Danielle?
Oh, Danielle would like, for those that didn't hear, Danielle would like appreciation for her preppy turtleneck underneath her sweater.
And the gold earrings.
And the gold earrings.
And the gold earrings.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Very preppy.
Oh, very good.
Oh.
I feel very limber.
10-10 limberness.
Josh says 10 of 10 limberness. So, good job.
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, I'm under the weather a little bit, so I'm trying to save my voice somewhat. So, especially I don't want to be struggling for the World Cup preview if I can help it. So, anyways, all right, appreciate it. I'll get us back into it. And welcome back again. A special thank you to Ben Chase. Really appreciate him taking the time, literally walking to a basketball game, but that's literally been his life as far as the 2 days he's not traveling, because we didn't really get into this, but it's Tuesday and or it will be Tuesday tomorrow, and he's going to a MAC game. Like we're in the stage of the season where the MAC's playing games on Tuesday, the Sun Belt plays games on Tuesday. So as opposed to previous weeks, he basically has a football game all but 2 days. So pretty wild what he does. Excited to talk to him as someone who has a dream someday of making it to all 30 Major League ballparks in one summer, which will that actually happen? Probably not. But I feel like he's living out kind of that same style of dream. So pretty crazy all that he's doing. Speaking of college football, guys, I feel like that's a good way to get us into just a brief update of what happened last week. There wasn't like a ton of shift with the top 5 teams. Everyone kind of held serve there. However, there's a conference that we unfortunately predicted that would be dead, and that was the Pac-12. And the Pac-12, in terms of playoff contention, lost Oregon and lost UCLA. Guys, we'll ask the question again. Is the Pac-12 dead?
No, but it's on life support. It's not technically dead. It's a little too early to say that. I know some people are already saying it's dead, and I think they're just predicting USC to lose, and that's very reasonable. With USC going to the Rose Bowl, which honestly USC might have more fans there than UCLA. It's in their own city. It's not really a normal away game. I wouldn't be too worried about that. That will be a fantastic uniform game, though, by the way. Just even if you don't have time to watch the whole game, just turn it on for 5 minutes and look at the gloriousness of playing in Pasadena with the bright blue and the red, and all rivalry games should be played with primary jerseys if possible. They all should do it. But anyway, USC has not lost their second game yet. It's too early to say they're dead because I like USC's chances, resume on resume, with Clemson or North Carolina or TCU if they do slip up. I think they have a decent chance in that argument there to win and get into the playoff. Now, the problem is I, like most people, don't expect USC to beat UCLA and Notre Dame, and then also the big Pac-12 championship, which would probably most likely be Oregon or Utah. So you get to play Utah again. Utah and Oregon play this week. So probably the winner of that game most likely. And that's if they beat UCLA, of course. They're not dead yet. They will be dead in the next 2 weeks. I don't even think they get to the Pac-12 title game without a second loss. They just lost Isaac Dye, I believe, right, Aaron? Is that the running back?
Travis Dye, yes.
Travis Dye, I'm sorry.
Yes.
They lost Travis Dye for the season. They just don't have depth on this team at all. They've exceeded expectations. They've done a wonderful job. They just don't have it in them, I think, to quite survive. I'm sad. I really was hoping the Pac-12 was going to get a team in.
Yeah, I agree. Josh, you've been saying for a long time that they're dead.
No, you see this thing and you know the scene. I'm going to do a really clean take for you. Good podcast. You know that scene in Fellowship of the Ring, the first Lord of the Rings movie, where Sean Bean is shot like 3 times in the chest, and like it's like a 15-minute death scene. But as soon as the first arrow goes in, you're like, this guy's dead. But it like takes another half hour. That's kind of what we're seeing with the Pac-12 right now. Listen, it's still heroic. It is not. Listen, that Sean Bean death was honorable and a very well done. Like, you don't feel bad for him. He died honorably, fighting for every last breath. The Pac-12 was not given up in that sense. However, still dead. This is Arrow 3 will happen soon enough, and it's gonna be okay, guys. It was an honorable season. Bo Nix, good job.
Mm-hmm.
Not Bo Nix.
No, I mean,
yeah.
Bo Nix did well to get Oregon to this point, I think. Now, Michael Penix proved to be... Go ahead,
Aaron,
Johnny.
can we talk about that play call?
Oh, my gosh.
The decision by Dan Lanning to go for it on, what was it, their own 30-yard line?
With the game tied.
With the backup quarterback. Yes. It's a 4th and 1, I believe. Bo Nix sprints up to him on the sideline. Oregon still has 2 timeouts, I believe.
Yeah.
He still goes for it with his backup in there instead of calling a timeout. The game's tied.
Yep.
I know your defense, especially your secondary, has really struggled to that point. I wasn't as I understand why people were angry that he even went for it. I was more angry that Bo Nix is sprinting over to you. Call the timeout.
Yep.
Get Bo in there. What are you doing? And they lost the game on that. I mean, they lost the game on that play. I don't. Do you guys have any other?
No, I completely agree, because
have a little fun.
There was a play at the end of the game where there was a catch, you thought, at the end, Oregon driving, trying to get what would have been a go-ahead touchdown, and there was a really kind of nitpicky penalty called illegal touching. Now, there was a little bit of a shove from the defender, but really, I was sitting there and I'm like, number one, I think they got the call right anyways. Number two, who cares? Oregon, this is completely your fault. You shouldn't be in this position at all. So I don't feel bad for Oregon. It was ridiculous. Even with Bo Nix, what are you doing? It's not like your defense has been that bad that you just couldn't stop the opposition at all. So I don't know. I agree with you guys, though. It's just a matter of time. Like, yes, technically, does USC have a chance to reach the playoff for the Pac-12? Yes. But the Trojans are exactly what we've been saying they are. They are a really good team. Lincoln Riley has done an excellent job, brought in a lot of talent from around the country. And they lack depth. I thought this was a 9-3 team, maybe 10-2 to begin the year. And that towards the end, their depth would really be an issue. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. With Travis Dye going out injured, that's a big deal. Caleb Williams has been fantastic. There's no questioning that.
Right.
But the defense of USC is bad. UCLA, despite their loss, I expect them to give USC everything they can handle. Notre Dame, although Notre Dame did not have a good game against Navy on Saturday, I expect the Fighting Irish, who have rattled off a bunch of wins in a row, including a blowout over Clemson, to really give USC all kinds of difficulty. I would not be shocked if the Trojans lose their next 2 games. Doesn't take away from what they've done. It's a vast improvement from what we've seen from USC in years past. But this is exactly what I thought we'd get with USC, a 9-3, 10-2 team. Look, maybe they prove me wrong. Maybe they somehow win 3 games in a row and reach the playoff, but I just don't see it, guys. And as far as I'm concerned, the Pac-12 is dead, or you're right, Johnny, at the very least on life support. So on the flip side of the Pac-12 being dead, the Big 12, which has kind of been on life support, with the life support being named TCU this entire time, is looking a little better because TCU got over a hurdle against Texas. Josh, how's Texas? How back is Texas at the moment? Because obviously TCU goes to Austin, knocks out the Longhorns, and they're still undefeated, 10-0 for the TCU Horned Frogs. Hypnotoad, man.
Yeah, insane. Yeah, no, we know this. This is historic. Texas is, you want to, if you're nervous about like trying to maintain wins, you always schedule, if you can, Texas in the back half of your season, because they post, and I think right now the turning point might be around the Cotton Bowl, like, or sorry, right around the Red River Showdown. Like, regardless of how they do, my theory is right around that is when things really go off the rails. Because here we have, first off, not back, duh. But 2, close loss to Alabama, unexpected loss to Texas Tech. We're not calling those as officially not back factors. We've talked about this. However, post victory, like loss at Oklahoma State, and then loss at TCU. Much, in my opinion, much worse losses. This is where you're starting to look at Texas. Just they lose steam when, and I wonder, there's such a high set of expectations for Texas, which is fair. They have one of the largest endowments of any, college football program in the States and their own network. Once you lose one or two and you're not getting into the playoffs, it's hard to it's hard to keep motivation for that, which is understandable. But also, when your games get to a good bowl game, get to a New Year's Six at least, and obviously now with 4 losses,
and they had that chance too. Like that was certainly within reach
too.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it was not. And again, so like I said, after it's post, regardless of how they do, it's got to be post Red River Showdown, post OU. That's when you want to schedule them. I mean, there's no other way that last year's Kansas would have been able to beat them if they scheduled them in the first part of the season.
Yeah.
Guys, don't let me pick Texas. I picked Texas to beat TCU. I thought it
Never
was
picked
time.
Texas.
People are still talking about Texas.
You picked Texas in August and September only.
We need to talk about TCU.
Yes.
I was incredibly impressed.
Yeah.
They won in a different way.
Yes.
I know they didn't blow Texas out, but that game's really 17-3 is really the score of that game. There's the weird turnover touchdown there at the end. TCU's defense gave up 3 points in Austin. That's incredibly impressive.
Insane.
We're coming into this game saying, oh my gosh, Xavier Worthy and Sanders and Quinn Ewers throwing the ball around and Bijan Robinson. And I know they have a young offensive line, but we're expecting this shootout. And TCU proved to you and the whole country Saturday night that we can win a slugfest too. We can get dirty in the trenches. We can win and grind out wins as well. This is not a Cinderella team anymore. TCU is one of the best 4 or 5 teams in the country for sure. They deserve to be where they are. Max Duggan, didn't have his greatest game of the season, but until that turnover at the end, he was efficient. He didn't mess up. He didn't try to make more plays than were available and lose the game for his team. The defense was playing outstanding. The run game was working enough. They ground out the game. I mean, I was incredibly impressed by them. It was kind of like Ohio State beating Notre Dame week 1. It wasn't the prettiest game in the world, but you hadn't seen Ohio State win a game like that in multiple years. You didn't know if TCU could win that version of a football game until Saturday night. I was incredibly impressed. They have Baylor and Iowa State coming up next. There's a great chance that those games can look a lot similar, as those are probably the 2 best defenses in the conference. So I'm still curious to continue to watch them, but I think that solidified them as that 4th team right now. Incredibly impressed. All glory to Hypno Toad. Clearly it works. Well done, Horned Frogs.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
What a tremendous story. They certainly increased their playoff chances by that much more. They'll have to face another team that they've already faced in the Big 12 championship. That's part of just the mystery, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the Big 12, because they play all, you're guaranteed to play all 9 opponents, and then you're, guaranteed to play, a repeat in the Big 12 championship, which honestly I think is kind of fun in some ways. I don't know if you're TCU, if you're that thrilled about it, but here's the reality, guys. We talked about, can TCU actually do it? Can they actually go 12-0? Can they beat that team in the Big 12 championship? And I'm waiting for their schedule to load before I make my point, so I can remember who they play. The last 2 games.
It's Baylor and Iowa State.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah, they're at Baylor and then
in that order, which are spoilers, and anyone in the Big 12 can beat anyone. If you follow Sicko's committee, they're throwing out all the scenarios where every team is bowl eligible in the Big 12, and it's not that crazy. The worst record right now is West Virginia at 4-6. So it's not unfeasible for that to happen.
Yeah. And Baylor dropping the game like they did against Kansas State at home in such a bad way, they're primed to at least recover some semblance of pride in themselves at home. Oh my gosh, yeah. So
it's dangerous.
There's it's a very dangerous situation they're walking into. No one could argue that they dropped Kansas State because they were too focused on TCU, which, as Ohio State fans, we've seen us drop a dumb Iowa game or Michigan State game in lieu of another team. Actually, heck, we probably saw that last week with Northwestern. But
right. They probably lose that game if they're playing somebody better.
Oh yeah,
right. No, absolutely, absolutely, no doubt about that. So we'll see.
My favorite team this year in the Big 12 besides TCU is Kansas State, who, depending on the game, looks like a top 5 team in the country or a bottom 20 team in the country. And you have no clue which version of Kansas State you're getting.
Isn't that the best way to do it, though?
5 version against Baylor. Poor Baylor. But
poor Baylor.
Kansas State is probably my pick to play TCU in a rematch in the Big 12 title game if I had to pick it. But they're going to have to get through the Jayhawks in the Sunflower Showdown there at the end of the season. So every Big 12 game is still critical right now.
It absolutely is. And you mentioned it. My computer finally loaded their schedule. I don't know what's going on today, but at Baylor, that's Saturday, and then Iowa State to close out the season. Again, Baylor came alive a little bit there with a win last week. Iowa State is still kind of bottom of the conference, but guess what? Oklahoma's right there at the bottom of the conference. Iowa State has a chance to win a game or two and not finish last, and who would have thought Oklahoma being dead last in the Big 12? Yeah, I can understand. I was much higher on them than I should have been. I've apologized about that at length already in previous shows, but I don't think anybody saw this kind of record from the Sooners, and that's where we're at. The Big 12 has continued to be perhaps the most exciting conference of every conference not named the Big 10 West. By the way, I don't think any of us are following it, so I'll mention it. Right now in the Big 10 West, as we're sitting here, ready for these Week 12 games, we have a 4-way tie currently. The 6-way tie is unfortunately dead with a Northwestern loss, but we kind of saw that coming. Now
we hoped.
We did. Now we have a 4-way tie with 4 teams that are 4-2 in the Big 10, and not a single one of them controls their own destiny. Not a single one. So meaning that one of those 4-2 teams, say it's Illinois, say it's Purdue, say it's what are the other 2 teams? Iowa is one of those teams, and is it Wisconsin? Minnesota. They can win out, and they have absolutely no assurance that they go to the Big 10 championship game, because if the correct other team also finishes 2-0, because the Big 10 championship game, that's how that can work. So anyways,
that'd be perfect.
I needed to throw that note in there as well.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, we'll certainly be covering more football, and although we're not recording a Football Monday show, you'll definitely want to tune into next week because, we'll be talking about rivalry week next week. It's hard to imagine we're already here. There's only 2 weeks left in the regular season. My goodness, how fast it has gone. All right, Jonny, over to you for some picks of the week.
All right, picks of the week. Last week, we picked the game on the USS Abraham Lincoln out in the Pacific. We had Gonzaga and Michigan State in a Carrier Classic. Love that on Veterans Day weekend. Gonzaga barely escaped against Michigan State. It was probably one of the more memorable, best games, just basketball-wise, on a Carrier ever. So it legitimized Michigan State, but we'll see how the rest of the season goes. College basketball is finally in full swing. We already got some upsets going. But for those picks, me and Josh, I believe, picked Gonzaga, and Aaron picked Michigan State.
I was almost right, man. I almost stole that point.
We caught up on Aaron by up just a point this week. So we got Aaron at 48 still, Josh 45, and I'm at 43. This week, we're going to go ahead and make some World Cup predictions. So obviously, we're going to pick the whole tournament winner. Now, if you're not familiar with the World Cup, how it works bracket, I'll just break it down for you really, really quick so you understand this. How you finish in the group matters where you get placed in the bracket. So top 2 teams, there's 4 teams in each group. Top 2 teams advance to the round of 16, which is then single elimination. Now, if you finish first in your group, you get to face the second place team in the next group. So if you finish first in group A, you'll play the second place team in group B, and so on and so forth. Now, depending on whether you finish first or second, depends on which side of the group, the bracket that
I
you'll be
see.
placed on. So when we pick these teams, there's still a chance that they could play each other much sooner than the championship game. So so I'll go ahead and tell you my pick. My pick is Brazil over Belgium. I do have Brazil as the tournament favorite. There's a chance, not a high chance, but there's a chance that they play each other sooner than that. But fingers crossed, based on my prediction, that's what I have. But I have Brazil over Belgium 3-1. I think Brazil just has the most talented team. They go too deep at pretty much every possession. If they can just keep their emotions in control, and when just difficulty comes, that they don't panic, they don't lose control of themselves, and can remain focused, a la Germany, 7-1, those 2 World Cups ago.
Yep.
I think they have a wonderful chance to win the whole thing, finally get back on top. We're also going to be picking the U.S. versus Wales, as that's the opening game. That's the game that a lot of people are really tracking. We're less than a week away from that game, so we're thrilled about that. So we're going to go ahead and pick that game as well, because that'll obviously happen much, much sooner. And I am picking a tie. Call me unpatriotic,
Okay.
but the Welsh defense is extremely strong. I think this is one of the most evenly matched games of the entire tournament. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw to start off the group stage for the Americans.
That's not unpatriotic, Johnny. We're saving all the points we need to score for England.
Ah, there you go. I like your thinking, Josh. I like it.
Yes.
I like it.
Triple digits. Because of the complexities of World Cup things, which I have not, you can probably tell just by the way we've talked about it, I have no clue how to pick soccer. My original pick was Brazil over Portugal, and then Johnny was like, hey, in our little chat, hey, don't. They're on the same side. They will not play each other.
But they may not be on the same side, though.
But they may not be on the same
They
side.
might not be on the same
Unless
side.
they're
not
adjacent. I need to look. Are they adjacent? They're not.
Yeah.
Are they adjacent groups?
CBS. So
Most
I've been looking at a few different models, and
likely-
CBS thinks that they will play
yeah,
each other.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, then go with your original pick, Josh.
Don't let us dissuade you.
No. I Germany's cool. I like Germany.
Okay.
It's a
Don't
really
blame
cool
me,
year.
though. Don't blame me later, because I told you it. Go back to your original pick.
I could just say United States over England.
Oh, gosh.
And make it super patriotic and just take the point hit. You know what? Yes, USA. It's when
No, don't do that, Josh. Don't do it.
Don't listen to him, Johnny.
exclusively
You're
with,
throwing away points.
voting exclusively with my heart. No, I'll go Brazil over Germany.
Okay.
That sounds like a fun matchup. Have I seen either team play this year? Of course not. Johnny's talking about managing emotions, and I'm like, yeah, great,
Those guys.
those guys.
Well,
love them or
look,
hate them.
Josh.
Oh, and then you in the United States.
Oh yes.
Great Welsh defense, like Johnny said. I of course agree with all of the knowledge I have on this subject. So instead of a tie, I'll go ahead and be just 1 point more patriotic and say that it'll be 1-0, 1-0. I think as they say over there.
As they say. I believe it's 1-love actually, but we'll pardon your ignorance for now. Yeah.
It is in fact. Thank you. Sorry. It is. It is in fact 1-love. This is a set, right? This is a soccer set.
Correct. Yeah, you play 3 sets in the group stage, and if you win 2 of 3,
3 sets in the group stage.
move on to the
2
group
of 3.
stage.
Perfect.
Or you move on to the knockout stage. Yeah.
Move into the knockout stage.
Which is kind of like the same thing as a tiebreaker. At that point, it's a 1st to 7. So, anyways.
Finally, yes.
Look,
we're
Josh,
getting it right.
I'm with you as far as my knowledge on the World Cup at this point. So I've got good news for you, and I've got good news for any of our listeners who also feel the same way, where, yeah, like I get super into the World Cup, but it only happens every 4 years, and in this case, it's been closer to 5 years. So good news, we have a really pretty extensive World Cup preview that Jonny put together. So really appreciate your work on that, Jonny. You did some really good work there. It just kind of gives you a breakdown. It gives you everything from their past success or failures in the World Cup, their current world ranking, our projection for what they're going to do this year, a key player you should learn. So really helpful, breaks down which teams are in which group. That's available right now on our website, fifthandgoalsports.com. It's actually in a PDF, so feel free to read it. Feel free to download it for your own use. It's for free. It's for you. It's for the fans to, hopefully read up on some World Cup, get pumped. It will be here literally by the next time we talk to you guys. It kicks off Sunday, November 20th. We have a standalone game. The host, Qatar, opens things up at 11 a.m. Eastern time on Sunday. So I'm already making brunch preparations for that. It'll be a lovely time. And then we'll figure out how we're going to sleep and still watch these games that start at 5 a.m. in the morning. In terms of picks, I am going to go ahead and agree with you guys in terms of the champion, which worries me. But I've got Brazil, and I've got them taking on France in the championship. Now, France obviously won it the last time we played this tournament, but France has taken on some injuries, so that's actually what's stopping me from picking France to repeat, which is also something we haven't seen since, I believe, the 50s. So I'm taking Brazil. They are, again, on paper, probably they outclass most other teams just if you play it on paper, but there's a reason why you don't play sports on paper. So we'll see how it goes, but I like Brazil to beat France in the final, and a reminder how the points work here. We'll each get a point. If one of our teams makes a championship, it just makes the championship game an additional point if they are, in fact, the champion. And as far as the U.S. versus Wales, I am potentially the most optimistic of the three of us because I've got the U.S. scoring 2 goals to Wales 1. So we all have the U.S. at least not losing. Jonny may be the most correct, but hopefully we get a USA victory. We'll get 3 points right out of the gate. Yeah, heading into that game against England. We'll see. Interesting group for the U.S. Jonny, you would say Group B, which is where the U.S. is, group of death?
There's not a true prototypical group of death, but based on the FIFA rankings, it is the highest average rating. So I think it's the most level of the groups as well. All
right. Well, that sounds good. So we'll be certainly tracking that each week. We'll have, a couple of games. We'll actually have that USA Wales game will happen just a few hours before we record next week. So you'll get our raw, unfiltered reactions to that game. So look forward to that next week. All right, Josh, over to your podcast.
You know, we're going to do a quicker thing. Welcome to Chess Heads. It's a podcast show within a podcast, profiling the latest and greatest within all non-normal podcast-related sports. Quick one for you today. In the chess world, in the chess proper world, as we say, we have brought in an expert. We have brought in a star witness in the lawsuits. University of Buffalo professor Kenneth Reagan. He teaches computer science there. He basically, the FIDE, the International Chess Federation, they basically have a red phone access to this guy. He is one of their official arbiters. They have finally called him in as of last week. He's got a proprietary cheating detection software because, again, a lot of this stuff is very mathematical, very analytical. And so his quote is, if I can find it quickly, here it is. Either you were cheating or this is a major unprecedented exception to a verdict of my model. And so he's looking at the Neiman Carlsen game and saying it defies all the known models that he knows on how to win. So we'll see if this pushes his case. He's kind of caught between two worlds because there's a lot of pressure on either side necessarily to make sure that this doesn't blow up too much more than it already has. But listen, if it's going against all of his computer programs and all of his data stuff, then I don't know. We'll see. So quick chess head update, and now a new segment within it. This is a subcategory where I add a new sport and see how much Jonny gets angry at it.
Ooh, I love it.
So,
Oh, no.
Jonny, I got for you. This is fantastic, and we're going to keep it racing. Your thoughts on racing, just general thoughts on racing.
Me on racing?
Yeah, motorsports or not, just the concept of racing.
The concept of racing is great.
Yeah, how much technology would you like to add to it? Is like a bike race a sport? Just human.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, cycling's a sport. You're
Okay,
still the
cool.
one, you're pedaling.
Okay.
Like the bike does nothing without you. It is, and
Now
the
you can
difference between
say
you and an average person, yeah, we don't need to get into this.
now at the same time, let's say I was, down here in Dallas, and I know you guys get these in Columbus too. Got these cool little bird scooters,
Yeah, they're everywhere.
or yeah, or whatever's local to your region. But
Right.
what if you made one go 60 miles an hour, and then you had 30 of them race against each other?
The scooters?
Welcome to e-scooter championship.
No
This
way.
is the
I love
newest
this.
sports. This is the latest and greatest sports. Just launched. It's literally, I mean, it looks just like those bird scooters, except they are dual motor. They are genuinely going about 60 miles an hour tops.
Oh my gosh.
You can lean
60
about
miles per hour?
yeah, you can have about a 55-degree lean, which is I'm not a math guy, but
That's a long ways.
That's a lot, especially for literally, I mean, I cannot stress this enough, an electric scooter. They are set up in heats. So you basically, I believe it's 10 teams, kind of like F1. You get like a group of teams, and then underneath each team is, I believe, 3 drivers, or I guess in this case, 3 riders. So it is heats of 30 people at a time. The top, progressing to the next stage and so on. So this is, I don't know, the newest sports. I saw a little bit of it on TikTok. I now follow that channel on TikTok. It is, I'll have to send it to you guys. It is absolutely insane. Very quiet because it is electric scooters. But it's pulling people from all sorts of previous experiences. I have people here who are literally like MotoGP riders, people who are skateboarders, people who were former BMX riders. Like this is like, someone who literally was just like the top person right now is Jordan Rand. She grew up doing modeling and just happened to be naturally good at this. And so what team pulled her? Helbits Racing just pulled her, and now she's one of the top competitors within the scene. So this is mostly USA and Europe. Let's see. Yeah, they're doing some London, Switzerland, France. Oh, no US. All Europe. So if you're ever overseas and want to see something that is not a normal thing, go check out some e-scooter racing.
That's kind of funny because that seems like something that, like, this sport seems like peak American to me.
Right. I mean, that's why I
really
assumed.
does.
Yeah.
So
Feels like something like they do in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Josh, I would like to say for the record, I don't hate this. I feel like it's borderline.
It is. I get
think
that.
It's under question. I think I need more data and more evidence presented, but I'm open to the debate.
Okay. Because now I'm curious. We don't have to make this the whole thing, but I'm curious, what is making you less angry about this versus like maybe NASCAR?
I feel like the person's doing more. But
okay.
it being motorized is my hang up because I don't really see the differentiator here.
It's just technology. I mean, every major sport uses some sort of, at this point, technological enhancement in the broad sense of like philosophically technology. I mean,
VAR doesn't make a soccer player better, though.
I know that I'm supposed to know what that means, but
oh, Josh, when you watch the World Cup and you see them do this, that is VAR. They are going to watch the little screen. See, they're just drawing it for you. It's very good. It's very good.
Perfect.
I will probably be screaming at the television whenever I see that. So it'll be a great time. There will be nothing will be scrutinized, and there will be no conspiracy theories at the World Cup.
We love that.
Yeah.
I have the clock ready to go just in case. But that's all for chess heads. We're bringing in top rules lawyers into chess proper. And you know what? Next time, no, I was going to say next time you rent a bunch of bird scooters with your friends, don't race. The cars will hit you. Please do not race.
Yes.
Please don't be dumb.
Yes.
Chess heads, don't be dumb.
I love it. All right. Well, I can go because Johnny, you've got a couple good items, and mine's relatively quick. So I don't know why I'm taking as much joy in the utter and complete failure that is Texas A&M football. I think it's because we were pretty harsh in our criticism of where Texas A&M started the season ranked in the preseason poll. We did not even have them in our top 25, and that would have been correct. Or maybe it wasn't quite that bad, but whatever it was, we told you.
I had them in. They were ranked,
Yeah.
but I don't think I had them in the top 10 like everybody else, and they had them at like 5th or 6th to start.
Right, just insanity. Well, and at the very least, we told people, hey guys, this is an 8-4 team. Well, it turns out they are somehow far worse than that. They are now 3-7 after losing to Auburn. And look, I don't know why I'm taking so much joy in Texas A&M just completely falling apart. I think it's just because of all the hype and all that. I don't know. It's just fun. It's amusing to me. Whatever. This week, Texas A&M plays UMass. UMass is, without really any argument, the worst team in college football. I don't know if I've ever wanted anything more than UMass, a 34-point underdog, to go to College Station and just finish off Texas A&M. They're already dead, but you just trample them while they're down. Just finish it off. Make Texas A&M pay Jimbo Fisher $85 million to go away. Because
Please
how
do it.
could you not if
Please.
Texas A&M loses to UMass? How could you not?
Aaron, did you hear about the potentially sarcastic field storming if they beat UMass?
I would love that. That'd be incredible.
If they beat UMass, the sarcastic field storming, because they're not even going to a bowl game.
Nope.
Yeah, you're right. We feel this way because of also like we get teams are overhyped every year. Why we feel good about this is A&M's done nothing to deserve this. They've done nothing to actually like earn or deserve the hype. That's probably why you feel good about it. And we predicted it. So yay us. But are you good?
Yeah.
Aaron?
I mean, that's
Okay.
it. I don't know if I have anything to add other than yay, they're bad. Yay. Haha.
Go UMass.
Yep.
Go UMass.
So what I'm following, we're going to stay in the Southeastern Conference. Southerners don't understand cold. So not that this is new information or really breaking news for anyone, but on game day, if you were paying attention and watching the Saturday morning, you saw that it was snowing in Arkansas.
Crazy.
And that was kind of crazy. You know, it was snowing here in Ohio and you're like, oh, wow, that's the first snow of the year. But it's November. That's normal for us. But in Arkansas, ice and snow. I believe it was 37 degrees at kickoff for them. So, you know, that weird in between. I think that's the worst weather known to man, honestly, just above freezing. Most of the time it's still kind of rain. But anyway, there's ice on the goalposts. They had to shovel snow off the field. I wish they would have left it. That would have been amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But point is, the LSU team didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do with it, clearly, because they only won 13-10, I believe. And that was just a weird game. But they ordered also 3 big, pots, if you will. One with hot chocolate, one with coffee, and one with broth. And if there's one thing that I know about sports is that hot chocolate and coffee do not go well during the game of a sporting event. So even broth, really. So lots of questions. The Arkansas field staff, and listen, I've been there. I've been field staff and trying to work in weather, but they thought turning on the sprinkler system would help melt the ice and snow. So they turned on the sprinkler system to help melt it. Naturally, what happened? They made it worse. So they had to bring out big fans and heaters and everything to field ready. As a Midwesterner, as a Northerner, it's hilarious. I'm sorry, the South. Just call someone. Call someone before you make that decision. You got to have a buddy up here somewhere.
I mean, Lexington, Kentucky experiences winter. They could have at least just called Kentucky's field staff and said, hey, what do you guys do for this?
Yeah. Funny, though.
Yes.
Funny. my second thing, really quick, that I wanted to cover, and if you're a Buckeye fan, you saw this as long as you kept watching the game. Really great story, though, whether you're an Ohio State fan or not. If you're watching on the Fox broadcast, Ohio State's playing Indiana. It's a blowout. They're already killing them. It's winter weather. You're throwing the backups in. And CJ Stroud throws I believe it was his last touchdown of the game, and throws it to Cameron Babb. And if you're not a Buckeye fan, that name means nothing to you. But really cool story. This dude has had 4 ACL surgeries. He's torn his ACL 4 times, twice on each knee. The way that team celebrated, the joy on their faces, the excitement, the amount that they focused and talked about that in the press conference afterwards, that they've talked about it this week. You can see what the team captain means to the team. This is a very highly recruited, highly rated guy coming out of high school, and just horrible, horrible luck. But to see that type of player keep coming back time and time and time again, team captain, leadership, they've been talking about what he's meant to everyone from Chase Young and Justin Fields all the way to the present day players on this team. I think that speaks a lot to the character of the team. It's just what college football is about, man. Let's take it away even from Ohio State. That is what college football is about. Getting to see that guy have an opportunity, get his first touchdown catch in a Buckeye jersey. I mean, it was hard not to be a little emotional just seeing his teammates celebrate him there. That's what it's all about. That perseverance, that grit, that grind. There's no way to fully be able to appreciate and understand without being in that locker room, but that's the brotherhood that you always hear about in college football. So you always you love when you hear those good stories, and you want to pass them along too. So if you want more of that type of stuff, I know Ohio State's posted some short videos and stuff, so check them out. Amazing story. Great dude. Check that out. Cameron Babb.
Yeah, that story was pretty incredible, and a good scene at the end for Ohio State. That kind of, in terms of their play on the field, responded relatively well, I thought, to Indiana, who's not very good, but the offense back in business. And yeah, that was just, wow, what an awesome way to end that game for Ohio State. Real quick, I thought of 2 things. Actually, I think I thought of just one, but it's kind of 2 things. Number one, my Detroit Lions are in second place in the division, guys. Don't know if you knew that or not, with their wins now over Green Bay and Chicago. How about that? But really, Sunday was a win-win-win for me, and here's why. Win number 1, the Lions won. Awesome. Second place in the division. That's great. Number 2, Justin Fields, as a Buckeye fan, was just balling. He's looking really, really good the last few weeks. We were just here talking a few weeks ago how Justin Fields was being set up for failure and was receiving all kinds of unfair criticism. And to see what he's done and turned it around, and I know Chicago has continued to lose, but it's not his fault really at all. Now, I know he had a pick 6 in that game against Detroit, but did we lose Josh?
I guess so.
Oh, okay.
At the very end.
Yeah, that's all right. I think he had to step away, so that's okay. He said his stuff. So Justin Fields, look, Chicago's still losing games. It's not really his fault necessarily, although I do know he did throw a pick 6 at the end of that game, which tied the game for Detroit. But that was win number 2. Justin Fields looking good. Win number 3 is the Los Angeles Rams, who, by the way, Detroit has their first-round pick, continue to lose. The Rams are now 3-6. The Rams' first pick is now a better pick than the Detroit Lions' first-round pick, which is a sentence I thought I would never say going into this season. And now both are 3-6, so it's kind of close. But either way, good for Detroit. We'll see if they can, I don't know. They're technically, depending on what happens tonight, Monday Night Football, they're actually only 1 game out of the wild card spot because the NFC is that ridiculous. I don't think that's going to happen. I am not getting my hopes up for that, but still interesting. So, all right, that will wrap us up for this week. Again, a special thank you to Ben Chase for joining us as a guest this week. That was awesome to get to talk to him. Make sure you go follow his journey, like you said, on Instagram, on Twitter. We'll have all that linked in both the description down below if you're watching on YouTube and in the description of the podcast if you're listening on the podcast. So thank you for that. Enjoy the World Cup as it kicks off. Don't forget to check out our preview. We've got all the games covered there, schedules, key players, everything I mentioned earlier. It's all there, fifthandgoalsports.com. And until then, we will talk to you guys next week.
Doing okay, Aaron?
Yeah. Yep. Oh, yeah, I should probably stop recording. And then we'll record audio on this.
Okay. Cool. Downloading this one right now. Is it going to be more you asking me the question and then
a little bit more?
just-
I'll try to throw in my 2 cents when I have 2 cents to throw in, but
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've done just
Fair
by
enough.
benefit of putting together the preview. I've gleaned some knowledge and I've done some research, especially on like video scripts and stuff. So I've got some things here and there, but yeah, for the most part, I'll kind of be throwing it to you if that works.
Oh yeah. Totally good. Just wanted to double check there. Aaron, dare I list Purdue Northwestern as my bet, one of my bets this week. Purdue's a 20-point favorite at home. So naturally,
Who are they
they're
playing?
probably going to Northwestern.
Don't touch them.
Naturally, because there's not a silly little number next to Northwestern,
Correct.
they probably are going to lose. So maybe I pick Northwestern to cover. Is that a completely idiotic take?
No, it's not. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Well, right. I was never thinking about picking Purdue. I meant picking Northwestern to
I got you.
Yeah. I mean, I meant just picking like maybe Northwestern covers in that game because Purdue. If Purdue ever has a silly little number next to them, they are doomed.
Well, this is all been just a plot for
Couldn't tell
Purdue
ya.
to win the West so they can find that silly little number next to Ohio State or Michigan and ruin.
And it's going to be
the Big
number
Ten.
2. It's the worst possible of the silly little numbers.
Yes, correct.
I'm terrified.
Yep.
Please give me Iowa again. Please. I would like Iowa.
Yeah. If you had to bet right now, who comes out of the West?
Iowa.
I agree.
Actually, I would pick Iowa.
I would
Who
agree.
would've
And
thought,
I
man?
fully not even I don't know what the tiebreakers are. I'm not going to pretend to try to remember all that, but yes, I would agree.
Iowa is actually in the driver's seat because assuming Illinois loses to Michigan, which is a pretty good bet.
Yes.
Iowa actually is the team that controls their own destiny going forward.
Yeah.
Assuming that result. So I think there's a decent chance. And I'm also, one of my bets is Kansas State at my own peril.
Wow.
In Morgantown too. So that's probably a stupid take, but I think they actually separate and play TCU again in the Pac-12. I mean, Big 12 title game. All right, let me reset Audacity here. Let me grab some water, and then I'll be ready.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, chat, while Johnny gets ready, let me show you guys what this World Cup preview looks like. And let me also kind of confirm that it works. But if you, right now, if you go to our website, fifthandgoalsports.com, it's just literally on the homepage. So you can click it here, you go to link, and then it should open a PDF up for you right here. So again, this is, I want to remind everyone, this is a free resource that you can, actually, let me do something, because we're going to make a YouTube video out of this as well. Let me actually just do like a little advertisement. So give me 1 second. Let me just make myself down here. Okay. Hey, real quick, interrupting the video to remind you that you can check out our World Cup preview on our website. So I'm here on the website, fifthandgoalsports.com. All you have to do is just click this 2022 World Cup preview, and it pulls up this PDF. So look, it's got everything you need from groups to game schedules to a bracket that you can fill out once we know which teams have made it to the knockout stage. And then it's got a team preview for all 32 teams, including predictions, key players, each team's schedule, their past history, all of those. That it's all wrapped up into one PDF. So look, you're welcome to read it. You're welcome to download it for your own use. It's free for you. That's the whole point. That's why we made it. So if you're like me, and I don't necessarily know everything about the World Cup, I follow it really closely every 4 years, but outside of that, I'm not super in tune to the international soccer scene. I'll just be honest with you, but that's why we've made this. So hopefully it's a helpful resource for you. So again, fifthandgoalsports.com. Make sure to go check that out. Back to the preview. Back to the video. All right. If I choose to, then I can use that for in the video potentially. All right. Now back to Johnny.
We're back. Did you roll through everything?
Yeah, I just did like a quick 30-second little intro of the preview
Tutorial.
in case I want it, because I'll also put like our preview on YouTube as well with pretty
Awesome.
minimal editing, but it'll go up on YouTube as well. So that way I can cut to that and say, hey, check out.
Thanks for getting all my last second changes.
That was good.
I have it's a little bit more hot takey on the second round, but there's always some surprises.
Yeah, there is.
So you might as well take a swing for it.
Yep.
Chalk never happens. So.
Yep.
But we'll talk about that a little bit here going forward.
Yes. All right. I will. If you're ready, I think I'm ready.
I'm good.
All right. I'm recording. Welcome to a very special bonus episode of the Fifth and Goal podcast. Yes, it is that time of year, even though, yes, it is November. That's when we're playing the World Cup this year. I'm with Jonny. Jonny, our resident soccer expert. Jonny, welcome to our World Cup preview.
I'm so excited. It's kind of dumb that it's this time of year. It's a sports equinox like we've never had before. Every time I see that commercial on Fox when I'm watching football, I get more excited. We're less than a week away. We're going to be even closer by the time people listen to this, if they're not listening live. It is the greatest sporting event, I think, in the entire world. Sorry, Olympics. I love you too. But the World Cup is easily my favorite. It's going to be a blast. The U.S. is back. Just excited. High hopes, man. High hopes.
Yeah, well, if you would, because I said you are a resident soccer expert, and I don't mean that lightly. You truly are. Would you just kind of give, and I don't know if you've ever shared this a ton on the podcast, but probably just haven't had time for it, but would you just share like a little bit of your background in soccer? Because it's really been kind of something you've been doing for a long, long time in some shape or form.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember not having a ball at my feet. There's no memory in my life that I don't really remember that. So that's, if you live in central or southwest Ohio, soccer is really big. It's one of those little pockets in the country where soccer is huge. If you follow MLS, you know that because we have 2 MLS teams just in that little part of Ohio. So I've played since then, played highest level club, traveling around the Midwest, getting to play there. Just absolutely loving that. Of course, high school ball as well, getting to coach afterwards. I've gotten to coach some youth teams, getting to I've been even over to Europe and Austria during the last World Cup. So having the World Cup happening again 4 years later is some great, bringing back some great memories. But I got to coach over there too as well, work with Red Bull Academy, work with some awesome organizations working with refugees over there. So I've had I love the game a ton, love to play, love to coach. It's my favorite sport. You might not know that if you listen to our podcast, just because we talk so much football and basketball, and I love all of those too. But soccer is my absolute favorite.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I can't pretend like I follow soccer super closely outside of this time of the year. I do go hard for the World Cup. I go hard for the Euros. I go hard for the Olympics. So this is, I'm your typical fair weather fan here, ready to enjoy exactly 64 matches in less than a month's time span. How are you preparing for this, Jonny? Are you, are you practicing making your tea now so that it's like peak form now for when the World Cup rolls around on November 20th? Are you not sleeping now to prepare for the not sleep you're going to get in a week or so?
The sleep, absolutely yes. The tea, I don't really have to prep for because I'm a total soccer nerd. And
Yes.
Saturday mornings before college football starts, 7:30 a.m., we got Premier League rolling.
There you go.
So I'm up before then. I try to get like my workout in literally before then. So then I have Premier League soccer leading into game day on a second screen, and I'm watching soccer all the way up until when college football starts for the day. So I got my tea and my big breakfast every Saturday morning watching. Sunday morning before I go over to church, I'm watching Premier League. So preparing in that way, you know, a lot of the best players in the world play in Premier League. Not all of them, of course. They play in the other big leagues as well, but Premier League's the most condensed league with the amount of players that they have. So just keeping up with them. Injury reports have been a big story going into this one. Normally you play in the summertime, you have a bigger break coming in with the international break already occurring. And so injuries are always a story coming into the World Cup. There's always unfortunate injuries, but more so now than ever. And if you're hearing that and you're not a big soccer fan, typically you don't follow the game other than the World Cup, like you said, Aaron, you might not be aware. Playing in the winter is not normal. Normally you're, and typically with that bigger gap, injuries just aren't as big of a concern. Now playing in this time, which is, you know, right in the middle of a Premier League or most of the biggest leagues in the world, you have had to condense league schedules. And when you're condensing league schedules and you're having these players put more minutes on their bodies in a shorter amount of time, more injuries are just going to occur. It's just the nature of it. And so we might mention some of these as we go throughout today. But if you're hearing any of those on telecasts as you're watching, that's a big reason why. It'll be a big story, honestly, as we especially talk about the group stage.
Yeah. So a couple of items real quick, and then we'll get into some questions for you, Jonny, especially since you're really, really tracking this well. Number one, just a quick overview of the format of this tournament. If you are brand new to the World Cup, let me just quickly break it down for how it works. So there are 32 teams in the 2022 World Cup. That field will expand in future years, but for this year, 32 teams. Those 32 teams are broken up into 8 groups of 4 teams each. The top 2 teams from each group advance to the knockout stage. So if you're doing math along with me, that's 16 of the 32 teams advancing to the knockout stage, which at that point is a single elimination tournament. And we go from there until a champion is crowned. So in the end, pretty basic, but there's a little bit of complication as far as which teams match up against what in the knockout round. But really, we won't discuss that in too much detail probably today. But I have good news for you. If you log on right now to fifthandgoalsports.com, you will find there's a big black button on our website that says 2022 World Cup Preview. I encourage you to click that because we put together a preview, and by we, I mean mostly Jonny, put together a preview of just about everything we could possibly think that you will need for this World Cup. So everything from the time and date of every single match, all 64 matches that we're going to have, everything from a team preview on all 32 teams, a key player to watch, our projections for each team, each group. It's all there, even past history of previous World Cups. How many teams have won a World Cup? Spoiler, not that many teams have actually won a World Cup. It's only 8. That will be a question we ask here coming up. But that's all available to you guys. It's all condensed in a single PDF, so you can read it, you can download it, you can share it with your friends. Whatever you want to do with it, it is there for you to use. So hopefully you enjoy that resource, and hopefully it's helpful to you, whether you're a lifelong soccer fan or a relatively inexperienced new fan. Hopefully it's helpful for you. I can also tell you there are many pictures. So if you are a picture book person like me, you'll enjoy it. So, all right, that's a note about our preview. Go check that out. But Jonny, let's get into it because I think there's a lot to try and unpack, and we only have an hour, and I'm sure we won't answer all the possible questions. But let's just start off with a question that kind of gets asked every World Cup. Back in April, we had the World Cup draw, and that's where each team gets selected into which group they are in. So out of that, and now that we are less than a week away from the World Cup, as you look at it now, which group do you find to be the easiest, and which group do you find to be the most difficult?
Yeah, so the easiest group is Group A. And this is the easiest question that you'll,
Yes.
ask me this entire time, Aaron. There's not a lot of disagreement on this. And this is typical when you don't have one of the powers hosting. So again, if you're not familiar with the World Cup, this year it's in Qatar, which is in the Persian Gulf in the Middle East, which is part of the reason why we're playing in the wintertime, so that we're not playing in 120-degree heat. Qatar, therefore, being the host, automatically qualifies for the World Cup. And the automatic qualifier always gets put in Group A. So when you have Brazil hosting the World Cup, that doesn't affect the group a whole lot and make it any better or worse necessarily than the average group. But when you have South Africa, when you have Qatar hosting, that can majorly affect how good a group is. So we have Qatar, it's their first time being in the World Cup. We have Ecuador, who's kind of had an uneven time in qualifying. And we have Senegal, very underrated team right there in Group A. They have a great chance, certainly, to at least finish second in the group. And they have a great chance with their lineup and with their experience in the major leagues up in Europe in the Big Five there to upset a potential European or South American power in the round of 16 as well. Sadio Mane, their talisman, if you will, plays for Bayern Munich. His injury that he sustained last week is going to be a critical story to know how far Senegal can go. And then the Dutch, the Netherlands, will be easily the favorite in that group. I'd be absolutely stunned if they don't finish first in the group. I'd almost be slightly surprised if they don't take all the points going into the next round. And I will say one point before we go any further. Again, if you're brand new to soccer, welcome. 3 points for a win.
Yes.
1 point for a draw, 0 for a loss. So once you go through the group stage, the two teams with the most points go forward. Now, if you're tied for second, now we get into some crazy scenarios. We'll talk about that, obviously, as we go through a little bit further. We won't touch on that too much now. But again, if you're new to the group, that's how it works. You play round robin. Everybody plays each other once in the group. Whoever has the most points and the second most points at the end of it moves through.
Yes, exactly. So, yeah, that's the easiest group is Group A.
Oh, yes.
If you had to compare it to the most difficult group, would it be their neighboring group, Group B?
It would be Group B for me. Now, you look at it and you're like, really? Like Iran and Wales and the U.S. didn't even make the World Cup last time. It is because if you look at the FIFA World Rankings, the worst ranked team in the group is Iran at 21st. And I know a lot of American fans who are kind of looking at the group and figuring, oh, well, that's the win in the group. Well, not so fast. That is a very experienced, gritty Iranian team. They are going to be far more difficult for the youngest team at the World Cup in the Americans.
Yeah.
So that is a difficult game. The Welsh provide strong defense and world-class up top with Ramsey and Gareth Bale, who just moved to LAFC, if you follow the MLS. He has been fantastic. This is one of his greatest success stories, probably just getting the Welsh to the World Cup again. They made it all the way to the Euro semifinals in that was 2016, I believe. Amazing story. That is a difficult nut to crack when it comes to their defensive formation, and they'll kill you on some counters. And then England. England will be at no surprise to anybody how good they are. They made the Euro finals last year. It will be interesting to see how England bounces back from that. Some of their players have had very uneven club experiences since then. It'll be interesting to see if they can pull it together, rein it in. They have the talent and skill to, of course, win the whole thing. So very difficult group. There's not a true typical group of death, but if there is one that I need to label, it would be Group B.
Yeah, England's an interesting story. Obviously, they're perennially a team that you think could go all the way, but they haven't done it in 56 years. You have to go back to 1966 for them to have a World Cup, a World Cup title. You mentioned the rankings. England, current world FIFA ranking 5. Iran 21, US 16, Wales 19. So you're right. It's stacked just in terms of the ranking. We'll see how it plays out. Speaking of the U.S., I feel like we should just get this question out of the way as well. What do you think about the U.S.? I know there's a lot of optimism. You mentioned it, just kind of a horrible scene where they missed the World Cup. That was really embarrassing for all Americans, I think. And then in qualifying, they're beating up on Mexico, which when's the last time you have seen that happen? Arguably never. But then kind of down the stretch in the last couple of games of qualifying, and I don't know how much faith, or how much stock you put into this, not looking their best heading into the World Cup. But what do you make of this U.S. team, and does that maybe speak to that youth you talked about?
They are so young. And what do you experience when you have a young team? Extremely high highs and extremely low lows. And that's why in this tournament, you should not feel comfortable about any game they go into. They have the talent to compete and even defeat the English. They should not go into that game feeling like they can't win it. Absolutely, they can. They can also lose to Iran. And so we're really going to see some moments of youth and inexperience. We have almost none of our players left from the last World Cup they were in, of course, but this is a redemption team. When it comes to the Americans, we're really a World Cup too early as far as them making a true run. The average age, I believe, is around 23 years old. 23 and a half, I believe, is the number. Wow. It's the youngest team at the World Cup, which means temper your expectations. I hate to say that. Of course, I'm going to be cheering for them to do better than that. I'm not saying that. Don't be expecting, especially if you're somebody who's new, who isn't always following soccer. Oh man, like the US could win the whole thing. Let's rein it in a little bit. The goal here, get out of the group stage. That is key. The key game there is actually game 1 against the Welsh. That is the even matchup. They're probably your biggest competition for that second place. Second place is really the reasonable goal here. I mean, maybe we can beat England, but second place I would take. And then, man, if they could win the round of 16, I'm thrilled at that point. They make it to the quarterfinals. They're one of the last 8 teams left. I'm thrilled with whatever happens after that. Remember, in 4 years, the U.S. actually gets to host the next World Cup. This team gets 4 years older then, and that average age goes up to about 28, which is prime year as far as how youth and experience without being too old on the soccer stage. So this tournament is really almost about getting ready for next tournament. And don't let that damper your experience of the World Cup. They have all the talent in the world. They have so much exciting players on the attack that are young. Christian Pulisic, Giovanni Reina. I'm thrilled to watch this team and how Greg Berhalter puts it together. But there's going to be a few mistakes like you watched in qualifying that you just shake your head and you're like, how did that happen? That's the youth, that's the inexperience, but you're also going to be seeing some incredible plays that you're shaking your head and wondering, how is that possible? So I'm thrilled to watch the Americans. I think even as a neutral, if you were neutral, they have to be one of the most intriguing watches of the whole tournament. Yeah. Just not knowing what you're going to get out of them.
Yeah, certainly. I agree. It feels like it's been forever since I've been able to cheer the U.S. And in reality, you're right. It's been 8+ years, and it's good to have them back in it. Really good. And the fact that they got in it without too much of a sweat in qualifying. I mean, in the end, I know it got a little bit dicey there, but for the most part, it was never a doubt. Like it wasn't like the U.S. got to the final day and we had this moment of panic where we're like, oh my gosh, so they're going to miss it again. Thankfully for us, they took care of that in relatively quick time. So thank you, U.S., for doing that. Now, let's top some expectations. Let's make a deep run, even though Jonny told me just to temper my expectations. U.S. winning it all. You heard it here first. Speaking of tempering your expectations, Jonny, is there a team in this field of all 32 teams that is coming into this tournament maybe a bit overrated? Is there a team that you think that maybe people will be surprised that doesn't make it out of a group stage or falls early? Which team is giving you overrated vibes?
Yeah, so I have a few. The first I wouldn't deem as overrated. I will say disappointing will probably be a better term for them, and that's France. And I know that might come as a shock to people. Pogba is out for the tournament, and Conte is out for the tournament. Again, you're new to soccer. You don't know who they are. France is one of the most talented teams in the field. And even with their key losses there and injuries, they're probably still the second most talented team in the whole tournament behind Brazil, maybe Argentina. But no repeat champions at the World Cup since 1962 with Brazil. It just doesn't happen. It does not happen. Germany really struggled in the last World Cup. Didn't even make it out of the group stage after winning it the time before in Brazil. So there's expectations are just sky high. Excuse me. Mbappe's kind of had this weird last year at PSG, and he's supposed to be that key. Now, I say all of that, and Karim Benzema can overcome a lot of those things. He's the Ballon d'Or winner of the year. That goes to the best soccer player on the planet. They have all the talent in the world to overcome this. They are fantastic. But this game is not played on paper. Denmark in their group is very tough, very underrated. I actually believe the Danes beat the French in the group stage and take first place in the group. Therefore, I think France still gets out. Don't hear that. But I have them losing in the round of 16 because whoever finishes second in Group D is in for trouble playing Argentina in the first round of the knockout stage. Group D, it is critical to get that first place because then you get to play a Poland or a Mexico instead of Argentina, who's one of the tournament favorites. It is absolutely critical. And because of that fact, I think France might have a disappointing season. Some quick hitters for you. Croatia, I don't have it getting out of the group stage. They're getting old. They're in this weird transition. Luka Modric is fantastic, but most of those players who made it to the last World Cup final have aged out and retired, or they're just old. So there's this new influx of talent, they're very skilled, very good, but you have a young Canadian team that is on the rise coming into that tournament. Morocco is no slouch either. And of course, Belgium is the favorite in the group. So I think Croatia will have a letdown after making it to the World Cup final. And then I also don't have Uruguay making it out of the group stage. This is probably my hottest take out of all of them. I don't have them getting out of the group. I think you have a talented South Korea team that finally has the player in Sung to put them over the top. They have been an outstanding and thorn in the side to many teams going forward. Think about Germany in the last World Cup. And now they have the guy that can make a difference in those close games. Watch out for South Korea. They are a very talented team, but Uruguay's got a similar issue to Croatia, just getting old with Luis Suarez and those Cavani and some of those well-known players. Be careful with them. You have Portugal in that group as well. I'm also concerned about Portugal. One of them is going to get through there with Korea. So those are some teams I'm concerned about that are kind of favorites, if you will, those South American and European powers that you typically see. That be careful with them. They might disappoint you.
Yeah, going back to what you said about Argentina, because I have a hard time looking at the group that Argentina's in. I have a really hard time seeing how Argentina does not finish first, and maybe even how they don't finish first with 9 points. Now, obviously, it depends on the end. Like if they get those 6 points quickly, that's part of the story too, right? If you're a first place team, you have it locked up, then there's not as much interest. You probably get some more players in your rotation. You're trying to keep healthy for the knockout stage, but just based on paper, they are the third ranked team in the FIFA rankings. By the way, a 35 game unbeaten streak for Argentina in their last 35 matches. You would think this is likely Lionel Messi's final World Cup. We'll see. That's obviously the same conversation is happening with the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, all eyes on both of those players. So on the flip side of that question, you talked about teams that are maybe overrated or are set up for disappointment. Are there a couple teams out there that not enough people are talking about that by the time we're done with this tournament are going to make deep runs into the knockout stage?
Yeah, so I'll start with the team I just talked about in South Korea. I think they have a great chance to finish first in Group H, despite being with Ghana and Portugal and Uruguay. The youth, the discipline, they are always solid and don't beat themselves. But like I mentioned before, they just haven't had the guy that is so world-class, that's one of the top 10 players in the entire world, to put them over the top against the best competition. And so they're able to pull off some upsets every now and then, but they haven't been able to just go, punch for punch with some of these teams. Now they can. If you're not familiar, Son plays for Tottenham, one of the big six in the Premier League. He's outstanding. I think he might win the Golden Boot at the tournament as well. So I'm going all in on South Korea there. He did just have facial surgery, I believe, but he's by all means good to go after suffering that injury in the Premier League again. So really high on them. Think that they can do great because they have great surrounding pieces with him as well. It's not just a one-man show, but he kind of puts them over the top. Other than that, I mentioned Senegal. A lot of that has to do with Sadio Mane and the fact that they're in Group A. Group A is a huge benefit to them to get through. The Dutch are a problem, but they should be able to beat Ecuador and Qatar, no problem. And then you pull your luck, probably playing England, but they would have a real chance against that in the differentiating styles there. And Mane is very used to playing against most of those guys in the EPL. Some other teams. I mentioned Canada with Alphonso Davies in that group. That's another fantastic group with Belgium, Croatia, Morocco, and Canada. That's a young, fun team that just flew through the group stage. That was shocking. Just what they did to the U.S. and Mexico coming out of nowhere. They're fun. They are fast on the outside. So if you like watching fast soccer, quick pace, Canada's a fun watch. And that'll be one of my favorite groups just to keep up with. And then just one last one would be Serbia. So you watch at Serbia, they're with Brazil and you're like, oh, Johnny, why on earth would you say Serbia? Like they don't have a chance. Serbia has a great chance of finishing second. They take lots of risks. This is a high risk, high reward team. So I think, honestly, and this is a weird thing to say, Cameroon and Serbia, when they play each other, that might be one of the most fun matches of the whole tournament. It might not have much stake in it, but that might be one of the funnest games to watch. They're both high risk, high reward teams. It'll be a fun match. Because they're high risk, high reward, though, they have a puncher's chance in just about any match that they play. They don't leave much on the defense. They're extremely vulnerable when they lose possession, lose the ball, but that's because they're throwing numbers forward, throwing caution to the wind, going for it. That's the only chance you have against a team like Brazil. So I'm thrilled to watch them even in that game. That'll be just a fun, guns a-blazing type of game. They can take out Switzerland. I don't predict that, but they have the chance to do that. They could potentially sneak into the knockout stage as well. So those are a few dark horse type of teams that can make a run.
Yeah, I like that. I'll throw one more in there. This is a team that you have projected to finish second in Group F, and that is Canada, a team that almost doesn't know better because Canada has not been back to I think they haven't been in the World Cup since the 80s, I believe. So, or maybe even earlier than that. This is just their second World Cup appearance. By the way, they went 0-3, and how records work in soccer, that is 3 losses. So they're looking for their first World Cup win. I think they find it somewhere in Group F. Obviously, they play Belgium right out of the gate, so that's a challenge. But against Croatia, a team that you said maybe, or just is older, has a chance, and then Morocco. Canada does have a FIFA ranking of 41, but maybe they'll surprise some folks like you see.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to go any farther than that.
Rankings.
Yeah. Well, I don't think they go any farther than that, but an interesting team to watch there. So I agree. You've mentioned a couple of key players. Is there any, and I mentioned Ronaldo, Messi, obviously all eyes are going to be on them. They're the name brands. So unless you've got something specific to talk about with them. We know those guys, right? We kind of know them and the Christian, Pulisic and all those people. But is there any key players that you're watching maybe outside of those kind of common household names?
Sure. One, and I really love the Dutch, and I have them going through to the quarterfinals. And honestly, the only reason I don't have farther is potential matchup there. I think they're good enough to make it to the final. Virgil van Dijk. And if you follow the EPL, he is a household name, but he's a defender. So I have to give some love to some fellow defenders on the soccer pitch. He was absent with a torn ACL, I believe, in the Euros. Netherlands still played quite well without him. You could sense the missing piece, though. He is the captain. He's the best player on the team, in my estimation. There's some other fantastic players on this team, of course. Extremely talented team. You could tell they were just kind of missing a piece. He's back, and they should run through Group A. With him solidifying the center back position there in a 3-4-3, where that center back is absolutely critical, I could see the Dutch have the talent to win the whole thing. So, defense doesn't get a whole lot of love. This he plays at Liverpool. If you follow the EPL, you know him very well. But give some love to some defenders there. And then I just want to key in. We've mentioned Messi, Ronaldo. Another guy to throw in there is Robert Lewandowski. And so we're talking about Messi and Ronaldo. This might be a chance. It's going to be the same. So the Barcelona star, again, he is really a household name. But he has kind of had some meltdowns in the big tournaments.
Yep.
And so I would personally love to see him come through.
Didn't score in the Euros at all, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I would love to see him come through. I would love to see him break through with Poland. Part of it is the failure of those around him to create plays and take pressure off of him. Defense is just key on him so much. I would absolutely love to see him break through. That'll be a story of the tournament, though. Lewandowski, Ronaldo, Messi, kind of the last dance type of thing. Can you break through with your national team on the last stage? And of course, the expectations are different with Poland. You want to make it through the group stage. If you could win one of those knockout games, that would be fantastic and a huge success. Gareth Bale would be another one of those older aging out guys. So I'm really, really excited to see what those guys can do. That will be a huge story of the tournament. And lastly, I have a soft spot for Belgium. This is the last chance for the golden generation, if you will, to make that run in the tournament. They came up just short, making it to the semifinals in Russia in 2018. Kevin De Bruyne is easily the best player on this team. He's one of the best players, key players on Man City, who has just had that insane run in the English Premier League the last few seasons. He's the best player. He solidifies the midfield. He's the playmaker. This is an aging team, but they have so much talent. They're still ranked second in the FIFA World Rankings. Personally, I would love to see Belgium make one final run and get it done this year. That's the team I'm really going to be rooting for. It's going to be kind of my adopted second team, if you will, after the U.S. I hope he can get it done there with them, with Lukaku and Hazard and those guys. I'm really cheering for them. I hope he can hold it together and make one last run with the Belgians.
I like it. This, you may have just answered the next question I was going to ask you, but
okay.
I'm going to give you 4 teams who historically the last few World Cups are always in the mix, but do not have a World Cup trophy in their trophy case. Belgium, South Korea, Netherlands, and Portugal. Of those 4 teams, which team do you think has maybe the best chance to win a World Cup this year, or which team do you think wins that World Cup that's eluded them for years? So again, Belgium, South Korea, Netherlands, Portugal.
I have Belgium in my final.
Okay.
So the answer should be Belgium there. And for all the reasons I just said, while they're getting older, they're extraordinarily talented still with this team. And I think they can muster it together for one final run. I think they have that. And they do have youth behind them to alleviate that stress at times. The Dutch, though, have the clearest path.
That'd be my thought.
And so in reality, I think the smart pick there would be the Netherlands. They have They are on par. They will not be out-talented or outclassed by any team that they get on the field with. So, and their style of play matches well against those South American teams if they run into them. So I think the Dutch is probably the smart pick here, but my heart would like the Belgians to be the answer.
Yeah, I think I would pick the Netherlands as well. They really have everything you need to make a deep run, except the only thing they may not have is they really haven't picked who their primary goalkeeper is going to be. And look, on one hand, that means you have several options that can work for you. That's great. On the other hand, you don't necessarily have that sure guy necessarily. Not that you have to have him, but I think of a guy. If you kind of scroll down the list, like Costa Rica's got a keeper, and Kaylor.
Oh yeah,
and like he's great, and he'll probably stand on his head for Costa Rica and keep them in games that they have no business being in. And Netherlands, again, they haven't really allowed that many goals in qualifying. I think they've won they have a win streak of 18 or something like that. So I'm not really worried about it, but it's just a note. Like if I'm being really nitpicky, they don't have a guy like him, but really he's probably the best keeper in the World Cup. I'm not sure anybody has a keeper like him. Maybe you could speak to that more than I can, but
Costa Rica is not getting through the group stage. And save that clip when they eventually do and prove me wrong. But they could ruin it for Spain or Germany.
Yeah.
These are very vulnerable Spanish and German teams. This is not your prototypical classic to where either one of them could make a deep run in the tournament, but I would not put up money on it with them. I think Costa Rica is not going to make it through the group, but don't be surprised if they get a couple points in this group and ruin it potentially for a German or Spanish side and allow the Japanese to take one of those spots into the knockout stage. I had a hard time picking either Germany or Spain. I had a hard time deciding which one of them would be the ones who would drop out. So I didn't pick that. I picked both of them to go through. But Costa Rica started off qualifying horrendously and then got hot at the right time to save themselves in the hex and qualifying there in North America. So they're coming off a hot streak. And with a goalkeeper like that, if you've watched the U.S. in the past with Tim Howard, it can keep you in games that you have no business being a part of. And then weird bounces, weird things can happen. And you can survive and win those games and ruin the World Cup for somebody else, a la South Korea again, last World Cup against Germany. Sometimes the most fun games and most memorable games in the tournaments are won by teams that don't even make it out of the group stage, but they ruin it for one of the favorites and upset them. So that would be another interesting group where the favorites are not as strong as they might appear if you're not following closely.
Yeah, I like it. All right, before we wrap things up, you mentioned you've got Belgium in your championship. But you also mentioned that you don't have them winning. Who is your champion, and is it the obvious, I shouldn't say obvious favorite, but the betting odds favorite, the number one team in the FIFA rankings, a team that many people are picking to win this whole thing?
Yeah, I do have Brazil winning it finally. Again, they have the most talented squad in the entire tournament. France would give them a run for their money in that category. Part of me would actually even love an all South American final between Brazil and Argentina with Messi.
That'd be fun.
That would be incredible. Here's the key for Brazil. They go too deep at every level. Their second squad would make it into the quarterfinals probably in the tournament. Can they keep a calm head? When things go wrong, panic. And Neymar goes hero. And you cannot do that. That doesn't even work in basketball.
Right.
It certainly doesn't work in soccer. Can they keep control, self-control, discipline? And this is so critical. They keep getting knocked out when they face a strong, staunch European power in the knockout stage. When they get down a goal in that stage, are they able to recover? Are they able to remain calm and stay within the boundaries of their style of play, or do they panic and try to get out of it and win on their own? Neymar has to keep the flopping down. That, if you haven't been following World Cup soccer, they have gotten a lot stricter on that in the bigger leagues, where they will card players for flopping. Now, you're still going to see a little bit of it going on and selling the call, But if the refs feel that you are basically just flopping and trying to sell it, they will card you and they will call the penalty. That has the potential to be a big story with, I hate to target people, but the South American sides, especially here. So is Brazil able to rein it in a little bit when things get tough, when the trials come against those European sides, which it will happen? Are you able to remain calm, remain in the system? You have every bit of ability and talent. You go too deep, even if injuries happen, as long as they don't happen to Neymar players. The pressure's not even all on Neymar to score. He's not one of these countries where, man, if Neymar doesn't get a goal, I don't know. This team is loaded with talent. I mean, Neymar might not even be the lead goal scorer when this tournament's all over for Brazil. So I have a hard time picking against them. And at the same time, with the wrong matchup from their perspective, I can definitely see them going down if they lose their cool, get hot heads, which they are prone to do in the past.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to watch this Brazil team. I also have picked Brazil to win. I've got them knocking off France. I know you're not super high on France. I just think there's enough World Cup experience that they can overcome some injuries. There's enough depth even still on that French side. Now, you did say that you like France to get second in that group. If that's the case, if Brazil wins Group G, but France gets second, then my matchup of Brazil-France goes out the window based on how matchups work. And you'll hear lots of people making these predictions, and that's kind of the same thing. I'm projecting France to win the group. I'm projecting Brazil to win the group. That would pit them on opposite sides of the bracket, but we'll see. In terms of Group G, that's the group that Brazil is in. Just a quick refresh there. Serbia, Switzerland, Cameroon are the other teams in that group, and Switzerland most likely to give Brazil the biggest challenge there. And so we'll see what the Swiss can do. But you put a note in here, and again, I encourage you to check out this preview. An interesting note, Switzerland has reached 5 straight World Cups, but they have the most quarterfinal appearances without reaching a semifinal, 3. And you have to go back to 1954 for one of those quarterfinal matchups, but that's something that the Swiss just have not been able to advance. They have not been able to figure it out, but they did help knock off Italy in qualification. So they're feeling pretty good after that, I would think. And look, Italy's probably the most notable team that's not in this field. Is there any other teams that people are gonna think they're gonna be watching these games and they're gonna think, oh, I wonder where so and so's at? And the answer is sitting at home. Italy's obviously the most notable. Is there any other team that's out there that is usually here and is not in this tournament?
European qualifying is brutal.
Yeah,
it's not really like North America, where I would argue we don't deserve 4 spots in North America. I think that would be fair. Really, you're going to be asking where Holland is. Again, if you follow the EPL, he's potentially the best player in the world. He has been absolutely fantastic for Manchester City this season. I don't even remember how many goals he has updated up to this point. But he is Norwegian. Unfortunately for him in qualification, there's just not a lot of help for him. You do have Odegaard, who plays at Arsenal, who's also fantastic. Obviously, as an Arsenal fan, love Odegaard, but there's not a lot of support there for him. So they were not able to make it. And then also another Scandinavian country, Sweden, who is normally a participant in the World Cup. And I believe they made the quarterfinals last time around. Were also not able to qualify along with Italy this season. So European qualification is just absolutely brutal. Austria and Hungary both many times get in on this as well. They both barely missed it also. Switzerland, going back to Switzerland and Denmark are both teams that are outstanding. There's not a lot of holes. They just usually are missing, kind of how I was talking about South Korea. They're missing that key person, that world-class player to put them over the top. They will give everybody trouble. I just really am curious where the goals come from with the Swiss. So I think Denmark has a little bit more attack in them. I expect Denmark obviously to do very well. I mentioned them previously, but Sweden and Norway are probably your 2 biggest players that are absent in this one.
Yeah, pretty wild. Thankfully, the U.S. not on that list this year, and they will not be on it next year because they are hosting. I assume. I know it's a little weird because if I'm not wrong, there's technically 3 countries, but they'll be there. And either way, hopefully,
with the
you would think.
expanded field, it's
That's also a
simpler.
good point.
Also,
That's a good point.
With it being 64 teams, it's very easy to give 3 countries. And going forward,
yes,
we're going to see multiple country hosts. With the expanded field, that's a huge weight on one country. Now, the U.S. still probably could do it. England could probably still do it, but why not share it? So you're going to see probably a lot of European hosts. I believe the one after the North American host, which is, Canada, U.S., and Mexico are sharing. I believe the next one is Southern South America. I believe it's Uruguay, Argentina, Chile, Paraguay, all hosting together as well. I would expect, again, in a 64-team field, a lot of those teams would qualify anyway.
Correct.
In the 64-team field. It's easier to give it to 4. It'll be interesting how they format that, though. We've obviously never had a co-share host, so it'll be fun to see it back then. But save up your money for those World Cup games when they get here in 4 years.
Yeah, for real. And then you got the Olympics like 2 years after that. So if you want to watch some of these world tournaments in the US, they're coming to us, which is exciting. I do want to end on something that's a little bit more of a serious note, and you brought it up in terms of the host. Obviously, and we don't need to deep dive this necessarily, but I do think it's worth talking a couple minutes about kind of the events surrounding the World Cup in terms of Qatar. So there's a lot we can unpack. And I think you're going to hear it, especially in the next few days as we get ready for some of these games. You're going to hear people that are boycotting watching the World Cup, and for a variety of different reasons. Number one, I think first and foremost is the number of deaths that were attributed directly to the building of all of these stadiums, just bad working conditions. There's a variety of other issues here. And so I guess maybe my question, and we can kind of go back and forth on this a little bit, but how does a soccer fan both enjoy the World Cup, which is, in your words, and I agree, the greatest tournament in sports that happens every 4 years, while at the same time acknowledging some really big issues with this host country and ultimately FIFA's decision and constant corruption, it seems, in putting this tournament on. There's a balance here, and I think, and you can agree or disagree, I have no issue with people that are choosing to boycott. I get it. There was a couple thousand people that died as a direct result of this event. It's very complicated, is what I'm trying to say.
It's a great question, and it's a discussion that needs to be had, and I don't have I appreciate you asking the question. And I think I will start off with giving credit to many of the football leagues across the world. Not all of them, so I don't want to give all of them credit that don't deserve it. But I believe it's especially the Danes and the Dutch that have done a great job of even trying to wear something on their jersey. I know FIFA's been trying to block that, so we'll see if it's even on there. But I mean, I believe the Dutch even met with some of the migrant workers this last week just to kind of meet and greet and talk to them and kind of like get more information about. Teams are traveling to Qatar, of course, already. Trying to wear stuff on their jerseys, even talking the Germans. I know like several of their big supporters, former players, are like, I'm not watching, I'm not going. I know they want me to, I will not do it. So I do want to give credit to those people. And like you said, they have every right to feel that way and feel strongly enough to even boycott. I will not disparage anybody who thinks that way. I think for me and how I think about it is the players didn't ask for this. The players had no part in this decision.
Correct.
And I'm not going to punish the players for FIFA's corruption. So I think you can watch and enjoy the sport and the tournament and the matches while still feeling strongly and disagreeing that the tournament was ever put in Qatar. It never should have. Never should have happened. And feel that there are civil and human rights issues that are at play here as well. We did just have the Olympics in China, and there's it was a similar situation where not similar in the human rights issues that are going on, but there are human rights issues going on in China as well. So I think, you had people boycotting that. You had people feeling like we shouldn't even send the team. I'm not even going to disagree with you on that. I think, but I'll have the same take that I really had for the Olympics. The Olympians didn't decide this.
Yep.
This is their one opportunity to do it. So I'm also not going to be upset or angry at these teams or these players who have devoted their lives really, like, yes, the clubs are great and clubs playing, but these players want nothing more than success and to hold that trophy up for their country. There's something about your country being able to have that gold medal in the Olympics or to hoist that World Cup trophy after you've been victorious. What Qatar has done needs to be further investigated. It needs to be further looked into. What FIFA has done. And I also would like to say, who's running FIFA now is not the people who selected Qatar in the first place. These are selected 12 years out. And criminal charges have been brought upon Sepp Blatter and many of those others who are corrupt officials. It's not a simpler process, though, of moving the location of the tournament. Otherwise, I would have been pushing for that as well. So I think it's making the best out of really a bad situation and what has gone on. But I also am not an international relations major or somebody who has a full understanding of how that would even go about of bringing Qatar, having any sort of justice or inquiry there. So I'm not going to pretend like I know what the steps would be in that situation. It's awful what the stories that you've heard in those arenas. But at the same time, I think players are making the best of it. I think as a fan, I'm going to make sure that I'm supporting them. But by no means, I don't think I need to feel like that's an endorsement of what they have, Qatar has done as a country to prepare for the World Cup and what FIFA has done to select them.
Yeah, Johnny, I appreciate that response a lot because I think I would agree with both sides. If you choose to watch it and really enjoy it like we're about to, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I also don't think there's anything wrong with someone that chooses not to because of what happened. What I do find wrong is people pointing the fingers at those boycotting or people pointing the fingers at those watching saying, how dare you? Because this is a complicated situation. The reality too is if you look at any country, if you dig deep enough, you will find things that are very disturbing. And I would arguably include the United States in that. That goes for really every country. Obviously with Qatar, you didn't have to dig at all. It was just presented right in front of your face. It wasn't well hidden. So that's part of it. And that does not excuse by any stretch of the imagination all of the things that happened there. But this is a difficult topic, but at the same time, I think through it all, yes, can we celebrate an incredible sport with the best athletes in the world who have trained 4+ years for this exact moment? I do think the answer is yes. And I don't, at least for me, I have no problem watching it, enjoying it. I will watch probably most of the 64 matches we're going to have here in the next month. And I don't feel bad about that. Other than my sleep schedule will feel bad about that. But we'll figure that out in a different month, So, but I appreciate your response on that because I think it is at the very least, it is worth thinking through what you think about this because, and I'm sure we'll, to some extent, yes, FIFA will try to kind of quell any, and they've been very upfront about that, any kind of form of protest from fans or players will be, both from FIFA and Qatar's perspective, that's going to be a strict no there. So we'll see what happens there. But in terms of, the American telecast, what will they get into, all of that? And at the end of the day, what the media decides is good or bad, whatever. But I do think it's worth you individually at least thinking through this. What do you think about this? And yes, I'm glad that FIFA has moved on from that past regime, looking to improve things moving forward. Getting multiple countries involved in one World Cup bid, I think will also help with that because on top of everything, there's the usual conversation of the financial burden. An event like this, places, we talk about this with the Olympics all the time. Same thing with the World Cup, even the Euros. Well, less so the Euros because most of those European countries already have a bazillion stadiums ready to go. That's a little bit different, but you know what I'm talking about. So at the end of the day, I appreciate your response on that, and it's something that I'm not sure I've come to a complete understanding of, but I think it's a worthwhile conversation to have. In the end, though, there will be soccer being played by the best athletes in the world, and it's going to be awesome. And we hope you enjoy it. So that will wrap up this. Unless Johnny, there's any other points about the World Cup you want to make before we get out of here.
I'm all good.
All
Wake
right.
up early and enjoy.
That's right. All right. So a reminder, check out our World Cup preview. I think there's a lot of good little nuggets there for you to enjoy as you're watching these games. You can pull it up. You can find the teams that are playing and follow along with that. Again, follow us on social media. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter. And we will, of course, be following these games in great detail. And we'd love to hang out with you on social media and talk about it there. So make sure you join the conversation as well. We've got YouTube videos going up on some of these groups, the previews there. So yeah, check out all that. It's a good time of the year on top of the college football, on top of the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, everything happening. It's nuts. It's great. And looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning into this special bonus edition of the podcast. We'll talk to you guys next week. All right, I'm saving that.
Yep.
YouTube.